Beneath a slate sky heavy with snow, the river slithered black and slow beneath the bridge, a once grand arc of timber and iron, now half buried beneath winter's silence. The village of Windenmore lay still behind the pines, its chimneys breathing the last warmth of autumn. Along the eastern bank, where frost kissed the bark of birches, she stood. A girl in a wool cloak 2 sizes too large, her boots soaked through, her eyes fixed across the icebound bridge as though watching for someone not yet shaped by the present. Her name was Ilse. 12 winters old, maybe 13. No one knew for sure. Her mother had sewn that cloak before the last soldiers crossed. Before they left Windenmore whispering about retreat and glory, never to return. And still, she waited. Every dusk, just before the bells rang the sky into night, she returned to that spot, arms folded, breath steaming, watching. Villagers began to call her Bridge Girl, the way folk name ghosts to keep their distance. Some pitied her. Others feared what her waiting might mean. After all, the war had passed. The bridge was useless now, so why did she wait? Perhaps deep down, they feared that someone might come back, and that she would be the only one left brave enough to witness it. Long ago, before the soldiers vanished into snowdrifts and foreign songs, Ilse's brother was the last to cross the bridge. A boy with a copper jaw and dreams stitched into his knapsack. He handed her a letter sealed with wax and said, "Open it when the river sings again." She never did. The letter sat in a cedar box beneath her bed, untouched through seasons of grief and fire. No one had heard the river sing since, not with the ice holding its breath, not with the crows in the trees keeping count of the fallen. The schoolmaster once asked her why she came to the bridge. She only said, "Because he promised he'd return." The man chuckled, not unkindly, and turned away. That night, he left a tin of biscuits on her doorstep. And the next day, he didn't come back to class. Ilse's silence became her ritual. Each afternoon, she'd bring a stone from the village, small ones, round and cold, and place them along the bridge's edge. No one knew why. Perhaps to weigh down time, or keep count of days. Or perhaps she hoped one of them would one day feel warm in her hand, a sign the world was listening. And still, the letter waited. It was on the 79th evening, she had counted in her own way, through stones and stairs, that she saw movement by the tree line. A boy, not much older than her, half hidden beneath a cap too tight for his tangled curls. He didn't speak, just stood there, barefoot, shivering, watching the river with the same solemn hunger. Ilse said nothing. She had long stopped asking names. But when she returned the next day, he was there again, sitting on the bridge rail, a slice of bread in his hand. He offered her half. She took it. That was all. The boy never asked why she came, never asked what she waited for. He only began bringing bits of things, an old glove, a broken comb, a drawing on parchment smudged with soot, small tokens laid beside her stones. And when he left, he whispered into the wind, like it might carry words where mail never could. Some said he was from the forest, raised by deserters or ghosts. Others claimed he was a thief who'd lost his voice in a fire. Ilse didn't care. He waited too, and that was enough. In the hush between snowfall and twilight, their silences began to rhyme. Some hearts only speak in echoes, and some friendships are built from nothing but breath. Before the soldiers marched away, the village kept a lantern lit by the bridge, a soft, golden flame, burning through fog and frost alike, guiding home those who strayed too far. but the war took oil and hope in equal measure. One night, the flame went out, and no one bothered to relight it. Ilse remembered it, though. Her mother used to call it the eye that never sleeps. She told Ilse stories about how the flame once saved a wounded boy who'd crawled for miles in the snow. Now that same lantern hung crooked, rusting on its post, a blind watcher above the river's breath. One morning, the boy in the wool cap arrived with a tin can of kerosene. Ilse said nothing, but followed him to the post. Together, without ceremony, they cleaned the soot, trimmed the wick, and struck the match. When the flame flickered to life, it trembled like it had been holding in a cry. That night, from a distance, a farmhand saw the lantern burning and fell to his knees in the snow. He thought it was a sign, and maybe it was. Signs don't have to speak loud. For some wounds, even the faintest light is enough to start bleeding again. When the snow melted just enough to show the gravel beneath the bridge, a stranger arrived in Windenmore. He wore a gray military coat with no insignia, his boots caked in river mud. His beard was streaked with white, but his back stood straight, like someone still used to salutes. He asked no questions, bought bread, sat by the inn's fire, and stared long at the smoke. But every evening, he wandered down to the bridge and paused, watching the girl and the boy with a gaze that flickered between awe and regret. Ilse didn't speak to him, but the boy in the wool cap watched him closely. On the third night, the stranger left a note by the stones, folded, yellowed, sealed with wax. It was the same seal as Ilse's letter. She opened the box that night for the first time. Hands trembling, she held both letters side by side. Her brother's seal, the same trembling script, but the words inside, those were never meant for her. Some truths arrive long after the questions stop being asked, and some answers cut deeper than silence ever could. The thaw came not with grandeur, but in the hush of morning mist. Ice cracked gently, like knuckles stretching after sleep. The river began to move, sluggishly, then with purpose. Birds returned. The trees wept dew. Ilse stood at her usual spot, the box in her arms. The boy beside her, hands tucked into his sleeves. The lantern still burned. They watched the water shift, dark and wide. And then, from the trees, came music, not played, but hummed by the current. A low, sorrowful tune that only those who'd been waiting could hear. She opened her brother's letter and read it aloud. It was not a promise. It was a farewell, a confession. He had deserted, fled across the bridge not to return, but to protect her name. "I could not fight a war I didn't believe in," he wrote, "but I believe in you." She didn't cry. She just nodded once, then set both letters into the river. The current took them gently, like a mother lifting her child from sleep. Sometimes waiting is its own kind of bravery, and letting go, a final act of love. Years passed. The bridge remained, patched now, stronger. The village came back to life in quiet ways. School bells rang again, markets returned, the forge coughed smoke once more. But the girl no longer waited. Ilse grew older, her hair darkened, her posture more still. She still passed by the river, but never lingered. Her time of watching was complete. The boy in the wool cap disappeared one spring. Some say he returned to the woods. Others whisper he was never truly there. But on the first snow each year, a small tin lantern appeared on the bridge rail, always lit, always warm. Ilse became the school teacher, and once a year she took her students to the bridge. She would tell them not of wars or politics, but of promises kept through silence, of how kindness can outlive memory, of how some hearts are made to wait, and how even the longest vigil finds its ending. And in the stillness of the snow, her voice would carry across the river, just loud enough for someone, somewhere, to hear. Because stories, like rivers, remember, even when we forget.